Hey, question. You been naughty or nice this year?
This feels like a loaded question.
Shut up and take your damn present.
Nice! A new paint set. I was hoping to try these out. This is just filled with shotgun shells.
No worries, I'll just take these back. I'm coincidentally all out of 12 gauge shells myself. So, good day.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? The holiday season is upon us, and they say that giving gifts is more rewarding than receiving them. That sounds ridiculous. Which is why, by the end of this video, I will have convinced you that it's more fulfilling for you to give away all your minis than it will be for you to get more as gifts. Yeah, right. But in all seriousness, you've got a talent and a passion for miniature painting, and I'm sure there's somebody in your life that would love to have a painted mini from you as a gift. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to paint up this lovely bust of Cormac by Black Crow Miniatures, sculpted by the one and only Lucas Pina. And I'm going to give it to my mom as a Christmas gift. It's for me ma. Well, just in a caravan. It's periwinkle blue. Oh, and speaking of Christmas gifts, the beautiful Emil over at Squidmar Miniatures sent me his wonderful new airbrush as an early gift. So I'm going to give it a go on this craggy old druid. I'm going to use a few underlying colors to set the tone and ambience for the figure. I picture him in a lush green forest with a bright, warm sun bursting through the canopy above. And here's where I squeeze this paint bottle too hard and explodes all over my desk and carpet. I think by putting some color in the highlights and shadows before we even get to the real brushwork will help us create some interesting depth, as well as remind us to keep the warmth of the highlights and the cool green in the shadows later on as we go. Now, if you've come to this video expecting to learn some finely tuned techniques, honed to perfection over years of practice, you've come to the wrong place. In fact, this is the first bust I've ever painted. I'm just going to have some fun with this thing, not stress out about it too much or expect perfection out of myself. If I imbue this miniature with all of that negative energy, well, that's just going to be an effigy for destruction. And I do not wish to give a gift filled with such witchcraft to my mom. I'm going over each of the main surfaces with a thin, smooth coat of the true color of that surface. This tints our established highlights and shadows while not completely overwhelming them. I want each area to still feel tied to the same environment through the colored light. And to be honest, this was me not really sure where to begin on this piece, and I was hoping that this would give me some confidence in what the heck to do next. Now, I've never actually painted a miniature as a gift before, but I knew the first one should be for my mom. Even since I was a little kid, she was very supportive of all my artistic endeavors. I recall her buying me sketchbooks and all sorts of supplies, and she'd hang my drawings and my paintings around the house. And I got my love of creating from her. She is an extremely talented quilter and has won many awards and even judges at quilting shows across the Midwest. And like many red-blooded American quilters, she donates her time and talents for those that could use them. For example, she makes sensory blankets for people that are suffering from Alzheimer's. So yeah, she's a pretty amazing lady, and I better not screw this mini up. I've said it before in other videos, but I'm going to say it again. I like to start painting the area of the model that's going to be the most eye-catching or most important. And for this model, that's the skin and specifically his face. I make sure to choose warm colors to build up the highlights, not just white. And then I mix a gradient on the palette so I can grab the appropriate color organically as I work through the model. I want to slowly build up these highlights across the face, so I like to mix my paint about 50-50 with water for this layering step. And I remind myself that the face is going to be the brightest aspect of this model, so I'm not afraid to build it up nice and bright here. And while my mom has always supported my art, it's safe to say she hasn't shared the same love for science fiction and fantasy that I do. Whenever she looks at my painted models, she says things like, "Oh, that's nice." So yeah, I can tell that there's a disconnect between the actual subject matter, so I wanted to find something a little bit more in tune with her. So it did take me quite a while to track down just the right mini to paint for her, as most of the stuff that I own in my collection is far too nerdy. Mom, I painted you this sweet Space Marine. Oh, and if you ever go too bright while you're building up your highlights, don't freak out about that. Just take your base tone and you thin it way down so it's basically dirty paint water, and you glaze that slowly over multiple layers over that highlighted area. Not only does this bring down your highlights a bit and add some more color to them, but it also kind of erases some of the layer lines that you've done in the paint job thus far. The whites of human eyes aren't actually white. I find that the easiest way to get a natural looking eye is to take the actual skin color you're using, add a little black and a little white, and create a more neutral grayish tone. And when it comes to painting in the irises and pupils of the eyes, remember that we never see the full circle on a human eye. If you paint it that way, it just looks weird, unless their face looks like this. I assumed he'd be looking at that chubby little bird on his hand, so I had his eyes directed that direction and did my best not to make him look cross-eyed. And then with a little fine dot of pure white on the eyes, we get that glimmer that really brings them to life. I pictured this grizzled old guy having a gray and white beard, but I didn't want such a stark jump in color, as well as I wanted to keep that warmness in the figure. So what I did was mix in a little bit of our skin tone as well, and this worked out really well to my surprise, especially where the hair met the skin. And just like the skin, I built up the color in thin layers, so I never felt like I was going to create a major screw up with any one brush stroke. I also had a blast painting in thin lines to create the feeling of movement in the hair. It's a lot like doing freehand on a model, really, creating more volume and detail based on what the sculpt gives you and accentuating it with your brush strokes. And since the addition of that warm skin tone seemed to work to build up a highlight for the hair, I decided to do that with his green shirt as well. And this kind of made a baby poop looking color, but hopefully we can fix that later. Sometimes when I see someone's paint job and I'm trying to figure out how they achieved a final effect, whether through a series of pictures or through video, I often feel like I'm missing something, like they didn't show one or two steps that really made all the difference. So for this sleeve of this wizard man, I'm going to show every single layer of this paint step so you can feel like you haven't missed anything to reach the final result. Now, there were a couple of reasons why I finally decided on this piece for my mom, and I do think that the journey of trying to find the piece that really fits them is part of the experience. But don't feel like you need to get it 100% perfectly right. If you paint it, you put time into it, and they know that you cared, they're gonna love it, unless they're a complete jerk. See, my mom has always grown up out in the country surrounded by wilderness, even as a child. She often remarks about the amazing variety of birds that she sees out in her bird feeders, the wonderful critters that live around her home, and the great variety of hostas and wildflowers that she cultivates there. So I thought it was only fitting to find a piece that felt equally at home in the wild. And this piece in particular reminded me of growing up in that home and my childhood. I couldn't really put my finger on why until I was painting his clothing. My parents' church is called Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, and the pastor wears a cloak not unlike that of this mini. And the sign out front of the church even has an outline of a shepherd holding a crooked staff. No, it's not a cult. Pretty sure anyway. Today's video is brought to us by Surfshark. And if you're anything like me, when you get free time, you want to be at the hobby desk hobbying. You don't want to be worrying about all those terrible adulting things in the world like your information out on the internet. And that's where Surfshark comes in. They encrypt all your data so your privacy is kept anytime you're online. Personal information, financial information, companies tracking you with targeting ads to make sure that they always know what's going on with you, not while Surfshark's got your back. There's no more region locks for when you're streaming as well. Did you know that there's like 24 different regions around the world for places like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and all the others? And they tell you what you can and can't watch. Not with Surfshark. You can pick your location from anywhere around the world and then watch shows that you wouldn't have access to in your home region. And you only need one account and all your devices are covered. Now, all you got to do is go to the link below in the video description and you get 3 months free and 83% off after that by using promo code NINJAN. A big thank you to Surfshark for supporting the channel. Let's get back to the video. You can see now how I'm trying to bring back those greens through thin glazes of our pure olive base tone and the original deep green we used to establish the shadows. After we've reestablished our green, I come back through with one final level of highlights and then glaze in some of that nice warm skin tone over the highlighted areas to bring back that warmth so the cloth feels like it's still in that same warm environment as the skin. I imagine his tabard shirt thingy to be a rougher fabric, something closer to a linen, something that almost feels scratchy when I look at it. And working in a larger scale model like this, it gives me an opportunity to work with textures. And I'm going to use lots of small scratchy lines to make this fabric feel it's like a different kind of fabric than his shirt underneath. And just like on the hair, I had a lot of fun using lines and scratches to create interest on an otherwise fairly straightforward surface. So often in painting miniatures, we think that if something isn't painted completely smoothly with indiscernible transitions, that we're doing it wrong and we're not good enough yet. Well, the world isn't smooth, despite what the Instagram filters would lead you to believe. Hermit here seems to have a bit of a shrubbery growing out of his somewhere. And I wanted these green leaves to feel like it's springtime, but I didn't want them to be so bright and attention-grabbing that they take away from the main focus of the model. So I started with that same dark green color, mixed in with a little bit of our sunny skin tone highlights, and built up just a few highlights so it doesn't take away too much attention. If you can find a way to personalize your paint job for the receiver of your gift, I think it brings an extra level of sentimental value for them. For this, I decided to paint the bird feathers and the wildlife on this figure to look like local wildlife that my mom would see outside her window. With a quick Google search, it's easy to find good reference photos for something you would like to replicate on your paint jobs. I like to squint my eyes when I look at a reference photo, so it's just slightly blurred. What's still identifiable in the blurred vision is what's important to get right when you paint your model, not all of the fine little details. And the little mouse should be mostly in shadow based on the lighting of the piece, but I still wanted to paint on a few layers of slightly brighter, thin lines to show his fur. Again, this is something that I'm just not used to doing on a tiny 32mm scale. And if you haven't painted a larger scale model before, I really think you should give it a go and just have fun with textures and brush lines. And don't forget a dot of white in those beady little eyes. They are always watching. Where I'm from, the robin is the first sign of spring, giving hope that the long, harsh Minnesota winter is over and that new life is about to be birthed. Again, with a reference to draw on, I do my best to get the basic colors correct. If I can get most of the color pattern correct and that orange stomach, it should look like a robin. And I think this leads me into one of the most important takeaways that I had from this experience. And that was the utter joy that I felt in painting something for somebody else. It wasn't just doing it for myself, in thinking about the fun that she'll have in unwrapping this gift, and not just something that I purchased with my money, but something that I put my time and my skills and my effort into. And again, don't stress out about painting it perfectly. This paint job is far from perfect. They're gonna love it just because it came from you. Oh, and I found this awesome plinth that the model is attached to, and I just feel like it fits so well with him. I put the link down in the description below for Crazy Wenky's website, so in case you wanted to get an awesome plinth for your gift, you know where to go. You know, the creation of most forms of artwork is a pretty solitary process, and our miniature painting hobby is included in that. We paint stuff by ourselves, kind of for ourselves, and for our own enjoyment and our own gaming. But there's really something to be said about bringing in people from your life, whether they're interested in the hobby or not, to show your passion and show your artistic skill. By bringing someone joy by using our time and passion is a pretty amazing feeling, and I truly hope that you give it a try. Thanks for hanging out today. I hope you have a happy holidays with your loved ones. If you like the channel and you want to support me to make more videos like this one, check out my Patreon link in the video description. There you can see the awesome fun rewards you get for supporting me and making these videos, like access to my weekly vlog and my Discord server. You could also use my affiliate links in the video description below when buying your other hobby goodies, and oftentimes you get a discount on your purchases while supporting me as well. And of course, you can always pick up some Ninjon merch in my merch store. Well, this is a Trapped Under Plastic mug. This is my podcast. You can get merch there too, but listen to the podcast. I'll see you again soon, and sometime between now and then, make sure you find your way back to your painting desk and slay the gray. Love you, Mom.
Right there, black powder gold. Right here, right here is American money. Boom, boom.
The fantasy genre. Mom, I painted you the 6th Space Marine.
Mom, I painted you the 6th Space Marine.
Of our warm skin tone yet again over the highlighted arrows.
Look at that. It's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. There's just nothing more beautiful. American beauty. American beauty. Right here. There you go. Boom.